Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff Coga. First and foremost, I would like to welcome you to today's training. Now, if you can do me a huge favor, I'm sorry, I'm just coughing in your ear. If you can hear my voice loud and clear, as well as do you see the mouse move on the screen, please let me know in the chat box by saying, yes, Jeff, I can hear you, as well as what part of the country you're from, since we have friends from all over the United States with us on this call. And we do have some international people that are doing business here in the U.S. So, Rima, I know you texted me, so it sounds like you can get on. That's good. Ashley, what's going on? We have Sherry saying welcome from VA. Let's see here. Steven, our good friend Steven. Liz, hopefully, Steven, you got some campaigns going, and maybe we can talk on here. Griselle is back again. Hey, maybe we can talk, actually. Says, yes, hold on. Let me see here. Where are you at, Griselle? Okay, so let me see here. Griselle, are you there? Can you hear me? Griselle? Griselle? Oh, you can't talk now. Okay. Okay, well, let me know if you can talk. Get a mic going, and maybe we can have a conversation here. Let's see, our good friend Steven. We're going to be doing today. So, again, in the chat box, let me know what some campaigns you have done in the last week. What are some of the results that you have gotten? And then from there, I'm going to start unmuting you so we can actually talk about some of the things that happen. And today, it's going to all be about case study immersion, and what's working now and what we're doing in today's market and how you too can get the results they are, right? I figure that I talk about case studies, which I don't do too often. The reason being is with a lot of my clients, if you know, for anonymity purposes, we don't talk about it because I am very, very strategic on the way of protecting what they're doing in the marketplace because of the utility and because of what's going on. But today, for the folks that said they're okay with sharing it with people, I'm going to talk about some of the stuff that's happening and exact case studies in the marketplace as well. So again, if you got some results from last several weeks or so, let me know as well on what's going on. So let's see our good friend. I know, Steven, you were in the middle of a campaign. Where are you at, Steven? Steven, are you there? Hello, Steven. Are you guys muted on your side? Or maybe, hello, Steven? Okay. Please, I don't know if you make sure you double check your mic for me, please, so we can actually talk. Again, so we can have a conversation right on here. Okay, so let me go ahead and go through some case study. And Joe, if you're on, if you can actually make sure that you have some way that I can talk to you, that'd be pretty cool too. So the first one I want to talk about is this: 30K or more in 1 week, okay? And I want to talk about why velocity is the key to fast tracking your success, all right? Because at the end of the day, as business owners and entrepreneurs, right, information for the sake of learning information, is it good? Yes, I'm a firm believer on that, because you're taking a leap of education, and then that leap of education turns it into leap of skills, and then finally, when that happens, then you're going to take a leap in your business, right? And you'll hear me say this a lot, is that in business, simply the fact of leap of faith, believing in something that is always going to do something really well, is very dangerous, and not only very dangerous, but it's very costly. Okay, and so I tell individuals, yes, is there faith that's important in life? 100%, all right? My wife and I were very, in terms of spiritual faith side, yes, okay? But in business, leap of faith is very expensive. So you have to get a leap of skill, and to do that, that's why obviously you're on here going through the training, as well as when that leap of skill happens, then guess what? Then you're going to get the results that you're looking for. So this particular case study is predominantly based on, about traditional disposition strategy versus non-traditional disposition strategy relating to lead generation. It's a training that I have in one of the modules there. So I have that screenshot right on the screen, because we're going to talk about exactly on how this particular person just literally ready, fire, aim, boom, and went with it, okay? So here is an actual text I got this morning. Okay, so a good friend, Joseph, right? He says, Jeff, the campaign from last Tuesday went great. What's the results? I said, right? And he says, I will have the exact numbers later, but I'm driving, but I'm closing a few this week. And next week, I'm pretty amazing. And I said, how much will you make? And he says, now my question is, should I use the new number tracking my text campaign today, my next campaign today, and I'll make close to 30K or more, still negotiating a few, but that strategy works tremendously. And I said, congrats. Yes, you can track it. Yes. And then I put start thinking of tax strategies as well. Okay. Now, what did Joe do? Okay. What did Joe do? All right. Last week, he ran a DVC campaign, and the list that he hit was a vacant property list, and the results are what? $30,000 or more, and he was out on every appointment every single day this past week. Now, Joe, I don't know if, are you on, Joe? Because I know you said, let me see. Joe, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm right here.
All right. Say hi to everyone, Joe.
What's going on?
All right, so hopefully I didn't put you on the spot. I know we talked earlier today, but can you tell the folks what happened? Because I know last week or when you ran the campaign on Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
Literally, I think you were on the training, and then what started happening with your phone?
Yeah, so when I sent you a text, because honestly, I wasn't even going to launch the campaign probably till later that week. Told me to do it right now, and I did it, and it was around like 2:25. The training started at 3 o'clock. So by the time I got on the training, man, my phone was going crazy. I couldn't even last for the whole training last week. But yeah, pretty much I got a lot of texts, a lot of voicemails. I went on appointments every day, and I mean, I've been getting great results from it.
Okay. Now, out of that, right? I know you said that you're out on appointments this week, throughout this week and stuff like that. So give me some. How many deals is that come out to? Is it one deal or two deals or three deals? And what's the number breakdown? Do you know?
At least one this week and a few more next week.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Now, what advice do you have for some of the people that still haven't ran their first campaign, or they're looking to scale?
If they haven't ran the first campaign yet?
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much just find a good list and just don't overthink it. Just pretty much press the go button and, wait for the results and see if it works. If it doesn't work, then just switch it up, another list or another voicemail, whatever.
Now, this list that you hit, right, which was the list that you hit was a vacant property list, right? Now, you've marketed to this list before, correct, doing direct mail?
No.
No, you never did. Okay, I thought you did. Okay.
I actually found this list, and it was my first time doing it. And the reason I was looking for the list, because the problem I was running into was every property that I got was a good deal. It had a tenant inside, and it was gave it a headache trying to get buyers inside, and so that's what made me target the vacant list.
Gotcha. Okay. And then you found it, you appended the data, and then from there you hit the send, the phone started ringing. Now, after obviously a couple hours, it usually cools down, right? But what did you tell me throughout the week? Like, were you still getting calls and stuff like that?
Man, I was getting calls nonstop. I told you it really just slowed down probably Sunday and Monday, but I still was getting new leads yesterday.
Yeah. Now, what did I tell you after this morning when we talked, right? And I was just like, hey, you know what? Because you asked me, say, hey, what should I do on my next campaign? And then basically I was just like, hey, what did I tell you to do? Like, yeah, do you remember?
Just don't change anything. Just pretty much do the next batch and do exactly what I did last week.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because you got 30 already in the pipeline, so if you do it again, hey, if you can do another 30, hey, that's a great day. But what my thing is, I told you, is that based on, can we use this as a baseline, and is this at the top of the quartile or top of the distribution, right? As in, this is the best result you can get, or is this the average, or is this at the bottom? You remember that? Yeah.
Right. I do remember.
Yeah. And then I also said when I say, hey, do the exact same thing, I said, run the campaign when? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's the same exact time. I ran it at 2:25, so I'm kind of just not running the campaign now. But
okay. So you're gonna start getting calls, all right? All right. So again, go through the training. We're gonna talk about it, but if you get calls, obviously take the calls and work the leads. All right, Joe. But any other questions for me that I can help you right now?
Yeah, so you said pretty much each list used a different number to track each list. Like if I did a probate list next go around, I would just
Yeah.
get a phone number to track it.
Yeah, for that, yeah. So for the list one, that's what you want to do, yeah. So that way you can start seeing the volume of calls and things like that. But let's keep it real simple, Joe, right? Right now is you're in extraction mode, so you want to extract as much money as you can. So don't change it, hit the list again, and then go through it until you finish the list. And then, obviously we're going to be like, hey, this is the result you got. And when you actually get the check, hey, send me a text when you get it. And then from there, let's figure out the next campaign after you're done with that, right? So then we can keep on stacking on the wins that you have, okay?
Right. So yeah, it was 1686 that went through, and it was 185 calls from that the first day.
Okay, that's good. 10%, right? So almost, yeah. So definitely will not get that in a direct mail campaign. So, yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I hear a little background music and stuff like that, so I want to mute you there. Appreciate the contribution. And if you have any questions for Joe, or questions as you're hearing this, type them in the actual chat box, so that way I can go ahead and address them. Okay. Now, a couple things that I want to talk about, right? Because earlier I said that what Joe is doing is traditional disposition strategy versus non-traditional disposition strategy. Okay. Now here's a big component, right? So as I tell individuals who are strictly doing traditional real estate, right? I tell individuals to what? Look for ways to maximize the inbound calls, all right? Via what? Doing some little bit of investing side or partnering up with investors. Okay. Now, if you're doing strictly on the investor side, right, then I tell individuals to what? Partner up with local agents so that way you can maximize your leads. Because if you can't buy the property and or wholesale the property, then you want to convert those calls into income streams. All right, and that's what this training right here was all about. And I'll kind of break down what's happening with Joe. Okay, so he got his data. He said or data. He said vacant list, and you just heard him say what he wanted to deal with that because he didn't want to deal with tenants, right? Because he ran into that, and then he appended the vacant list. Okay, and then from there is guess what? He did the approach as an investor, right? In this case, he's a wholesaler, right? And he's doing that. And then from there, what did he do? He took the call himself. Right, and he went on the appointment himself. All right, and the number one key is this. Okay, number one key as you're going through this. Okay, is here are some of the questions that Joe asked me prior to pulling the trigger on this campaign, and I'll explain why velocity is key. Right, so and I'm kind of paraphrasing right on what he asked me, but he asked me things like what should I send my calls to a voicemail, right? And then follow up on people who leave a message. That's what he asked me, right? That's the option 2 model that I talk about in the training, okay? Another question he asked is, should I send my calls to a call center or an answering service? And I think he told me that he used Pat Live before, right? And then another one he says, should I wait until all of my data is appended? Okay? Now, let's answer the first one, okay? When he asked me, should I send my calls to a voicemail, right, and follow up on the people who leave a message? And I responded back, and I'm pretty sure I'm paraphrasing, right, but the message I tried to give him and I try to give to anyone else is that these calls, okay, can be worth anywhere between $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, depending on your marketplace, okay? So I tell individuals to say, take the darn call, okay? It's the highest and best use of your time. All right? It's the highest and best use of your time. Take the darn calls. Now, okay, if you have a good-sized brokerage with agents, okay, now you can route the call to one of your top people. All right? That's very strong on the phone. You can do that. That's my recommendation. Okay? I do that in my business, right? Okay? And or you could send it to a voice message too if you have an army of salespeople that can follow up. Okay? Now, the other question Joe asked is, should I send my calls to a call center? And then I believe I asked the question, I says, hey, have you managed a call center before? And I think he told me yes, if I believe, okay. But I said, have you had success in it? And he told me that, I believe he said that he didn't, okay, or the success that he wanted to get out of it. So what I told him, I said, take the darn call. Okay, now here's the reason why why I told him that, okay, is because money we can always make more of, all right? But the one thing that we cannot get more of is time, All right. And if you have never like built a sales floors that's producing money every single day, every single week, every single month, okay? And or if you have never managed it, then the issue and challenge you're going to run into is your ability to be able to grow that very rapidly and very fast and to be able to execute your first campaign. So I do not want individuals to spend week to week recruiting, bringing people on, training them, and things like that if you have never done it. Now, if you have already done that before, right, it should be boom, it should be fast, right? Like I've done it before, so it's really easy, okay? But if you have never done that, I tell individuals don't do it because you cannot get the time back, okay? And you want to figure out and run your campaigns really fastly, okay? Hope that makes sense. And then the next thing that he asked me is, should I wait until all of my data is appended? Because I believe he submitted to one of the resources in the training, and they're giving appending, I believe, 500 records at a time, right? And it was just like, should I wait until all of them comes back, right? And I said, no, run the darn campaign. Right now, why is that? Is because, again, time, right? You cannot get the time back. So once you have the data in your hand, you got to append it. Just run it. Don't wait until, you get all your numbers. Okay, run it. And the result speaks in itself. You heard it earlier, right? He has in the pipeline about $30,000 or more, and he was on appointments every single day this past week, and he's still getting drip calls. All right, so again, I want to make sure that you understand this, okay? And it boils down to this. Here's a picture of me, funny picture of me. I just literally shot this for the sake of this training, okay? I'm kind of a bookworm, and I tell individuals it is never a leap of faith in business, okay? Leap of skills, as you said. So understanding the power of velocity is key, because velocity is speed with direction. People talk about, hey, you know what? It's about speed of implementation. But if you don't have direction on what to do, it's like you're running in a hamster and running super fast and just for the sake of doing it. So that's why I like the term velocity better than speed, because velocity is speed with direction. So I recommend individuals, if you want to learn and how I'm crafting this and why I've discovered this is one of my favorite books. It's not the big that eats the small, but it's the fast that eats the slow. Right? It's one of the national bestsellers, and they answer questions like, what is the difference between speed and haste? Where does business go to spot trends before the competition? Right? This is huge, especially if you're in a very competitive marketplace. And if the market continues to heat up, then that would happen. If the market turns, then it will still happen. Why? Is because a lot more investors are going to come back in. Okay? If the market continues to go up, guess what? A lot more new agents are going to come in. A lot more new investors are going to come in. So it's called a market for a reason. And then let's not forget technology, right? So it's about velocity. And then it goes in and says, for the folks that have a brokerage or you're running a team, you're not a solopreneur, right? It boils down to, how can leaders help people stop dreading high velocity and rediscover the thrill of deciding, acting, and staying fast? Right? I get a kick out of it when you move fast and you start getting results, because you can compound on top of that. And I'm a huge believer on that. So again, if you like to, take literally the leap of education, right? Learn more, right? Beyond this training, then hey, do that. Push yourself to do that. That's a book I recommend for individuals to get. Get the audio version if you're an audio person, or get the hardback as well. I have both. Okay. So any questions on this particular campaign? Because I'm going to go into a next campaign, next case study, all right? And let me see if there's any questions in here. Says, have someone else to answer. My voicemail only holds 30 calls, so it requires another method to answer the voicemail, and I hate it when Toyota people slide down me and then wouldn't take the incoming calls. It was business insulting to me as a customer or me. Yeah, so don't do what they did, and if your phone only holds 30 calls, you may want to call your carrier to see if you can actually extend that and or attach it to attached to. So Joe said he actually sent it to voicemail. I'm sorry, he did not answer. Okay, I stand corrected. He did not answer. He sent it to voicemail. He did option 2, ladies and gentlemen. He just texted me right now. Messaged me right now. He did that. Okay, let me see here. What other questions? Something happened to the sound. Are you guys and gals hearing me? I think it should be okay. Do people broadcast on weekends? I'll give you a case study about the weekends. I have one from last week. Okay, so good. I don't see any other questions. You keep coming in and out. That's weird. The sound, okay. That's the strangest. No, it's okay. Okay. So it might be your internet connection. So if you have other stuff up on your computer, please, like, you know, like if you have Skype up, turn it off, that kind of stuff, okay? All right. So let's go and get into the next one. All right. This one is a agent-centric one. All right. But it still boils down to, again, the philosophy of the velocity, okay? All right. Now, this one is 2 buyers in escrow, and they're going to be making $38,000 from 1 campaign. All right, so I'm going to talk about how to pull money out of old, dead leads and why it works. And it's based on the principle and the fundamental campaign. This is an email-centric campaign, all right? So it's not a DBC voice message campaign, but it's an email-centric campaign. And the reason why I'm talking about it is because, remember, your goal is to get what? Leap of skills, but also at the same time, not just a DBC, but to understand how to use other medias of marketing. And I'm a huge believer on email as well. Okay, not just over the phone and talking to people, following up, that kind of stuff, okay? So I wanted to include this because it's going to tie into what we got. So here's a text I got this morning, okay? Kelly says, hey, got a few minutes. I said, what's up? Got some really good news from last week's campaign. Smiling. Good news is always good. What happened? And here's the thing about good news, right? If the news is in favorable to you, you call it good news, right? Or you might call it luck. If that news that you happen and it's not favorable to you, what do we all call it? We call it problems, right? So again, don't get attached to the outcome, but more get attached to the actions that you do in your business, because you're going to see a much bigger upside. All right. Now, let me see here. She lost money on. Okay, I just got a text. Sorry about that. So she says that I sent out the GBT, which is the Get Business Today email, to my old list of 200 or so last Monday. I was so busy because I had 3 buyers who said that they are still looking to buy. So I did the pending hijacking email campaign. Then I said, then what? Okay, and then it went on to say I sent about 50 plus to a listing agent in that pocket for all the pendings, and I even took your advice and sent the emails to past rentals too, maybe about another 50 plus. Took me about 2.5 hours or so because it was the first time. I was actually upset, frustrated, but I just did it. And by Friday, I had 3 people, one being a rental campaign, saying, yes, send an offer. I then told my buyers we need to move fast, and we wrote an offer on that Friday night. I'm guessing for all 3. And guess what? 2 got accepted after a counter on Sunday. One is from the old rental campaign. And then I say, how much money did you make? And it says one accepted at 1.329, another at 8.99. In the negotiation counter, I discounted my commission because I was so happy. So my side is only 1.75%. And that is $38,990 on dead leads, okay? And then I went on, says, work on pre-framing the buyers and try not to negotiate your commission unless you have to. Also dial down this campaign too, okay? Now, this is an email-centric campaign, but it's based on what? Old, dead leads that you have, okay? Leads that you may have gotten from Realtor.com, Zillow, ZBuyers, okay? Whatever it is, okay? For my investor folks, if you're buying leads from, online vendors that you're paying money to, it's the same thing. You have these leads in there. So if that's the case and you're not looking to get listings out of it, partner up locally with a heavy hitter, okay? And then from there, run a campaign like this to get listings out of it, especially if you can't buy it. All right? And especially if you're in a marketplace where listing prices are north of like $1 million, right? You're going to end up getting what? You're going to end up getting sometimes more money on the commission side than if you were to do like a rehab, honestly. All right, that's kind of like the beauty and the curse of being in a super like high-end market, right? If you're in like $1 million plus market, right? Is you're gonna make more money, but you don't have to do. You can do less deals, okay? So let's say Stephen. Yeah, so Steven said, sound like you did an awesome job, provided value, don't discount your, yeah, 100%, yeah. I recommend don't, especially in the fact that they're getting like quasi deals, right? These buyers, they're not going to find these because you're literally hijacking your current pending, right? So they're not going to find it on Redfin or Zillow or whatever online sources that they go on, right? And you got the inside scoop on this. So I'd say don't, and that's what I told them. But again, I get it. You know, if it's the first time and then you want to close a deal, then hey, sometimes you're going to discount it. Now, It is a tool. I tell individual not to, okay? But if you have to, you do, right? You got to do what you got to do sometimes, okay? So any questions on this particular campaign? All right, because I'm going to break down how she actually did this. And who has sent out the Get Business Today campaign, and let me know what kind of results you've gotten from the campaign. I got Susan asking me, are we going to talk about more of the DBC case studies? Yes, I do have some. Yeah. I'm going to talk about my personal one coming up, and I'm going to talk about something else called the Blue Ocean strategy that I'm doing on my business as well. And let me see here. Where are you at? I think I saw, where are we? What about Steven? Steven, is your mic working now? Steven?
Hear me?
Yeah, there we go. Say hi to everyone, Steven. There we go.
Hello.
All right. So, so you sent out the Get Business Today campaign. How many did you send out last week?
Last week, net emails was around 1,200.
Okay. And what kind of response did you get?
We've probably gotten about 20 responses.
Okay.
Quite a few of them were take me off your list or take
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But there were about 5 that gave me, or not, probably more than that, probably about 9 that gave me updated timing as to when they're thinking of selling.
Okay.
And others that are saying, yes, we're continuing, want to buy, having trouble getting them either on the phone or to reply back to an email after they've replied and said that they're, yes, we're looking, we want to buy, but they are not replying or responding to anything I can get going with them.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's talk about some couple things there. Okay. Now, first off, were there some that said, "Hey, I already bought or already listed with someone else"? Outside?
Way too many.
Okay. So I know this is probably painful, Stephen, but how many would you say?
Oh, I would say probably about 8 or 9.
Okay. So 8 or 9. And then what does that relate to in terms of like check to HIP National Bank? I'm talking about money for you that.
Probably about 200 grand.
Okay, dang, yeah, that is painful.
Yes, ouch.
Okay, yeah. Now I know when we talked, right, the first time we were talking about the income side, right? So if you pocket even half of that, you'll be a lot closer to your goal that we talked about, right? So
Right. Right.
Okay, so I know that was painful. So now, of the folks that said that they're interested, right? Now, what have you done after they said yes? Like, what kind of emails did you send? What type of responses did you send to these people?
First, I picked up the phone and tried to call them to make them an offer for off-market, secret list of homes, things that are hard to find.
Yeah.
And couldn't get them on the phone, so I left.
Now, why is that? First off, why do you think, if you're on the other side, why do you think that they didn't? It was hard to get them on the phone.
I think nobody answers their phones hardly at all anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and it usually takes lots of calls to get anybody to pick up at all. So I'm continuing to try that.
I don't think that's the case, right? I think it's more of, I personally believe it's more of, yes, you got them to raise their hand, but you're literally going to try to sell, right? That's what you're doing, versus trying to indoctrinate them a little bit more through your message. Like I would personally, right? I don't know if those 9 buyers, did you have an idea of where, like in your system, like where they might have been looking to buy? Like, do you have an idea?
I got information on that.
Okay. So I personally, my style would have been something like, great, I do have off-market deals coming up. Would you be offended if I were to send you, I would be like, hey, I'll send you something as they come up. They will not be on Zillow or Trulia, and it'll be hard to find. Okay, so I'll get back to you in the next couple of days. Right? I'll leave it at that. And then I would have ran the pending hijacking campaign behind until you actually have someone in that pocket, right? And then I would have emailed them and says, hey, I got this property address, and I would give them the street address, maybe the specs of it and the price, and then be like, hey, it's either overpriced. Well, you don't want to say overpriced, but hey, this is the price that you can get it at. Let me know if you're interested. I would love to give you first right of refusal because you said that you are still looking. Right? So you're giving the street address. I'm talking about just the street, not the number. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that way now you're leaving them, because if you give them the whole thing, right, they're going to pull it up and, they might undercut you or things like that, right? And you don't want to do that. So you give them just a street address and then the city, the specs, and the possible price or something like that, right? And then you'd be like, hey, let me know if you're interested. I would love to give you a first right of refusal because I have the inside scoop.
Yeah, and that's why I usually don't work with any buyers that I don't have contracts with.
Yeah, I get it. So, but you can, I'm sure you're more of a, you're a system guy, so if you can figure that out right and you can do that, boom, you can get some
Yeah.
of these deals. So,
I think I can take some of that and make
Yeah.
it a little bit so that it fits into what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So any other feedback, or something else? I know you're running the DBC campaign. Is it this week?
So I ran DBC, a couple DBC campaigns this morning. One that's not one of yours to buyers, and then kind of the basic DBC command or campaign to my sellers in my database. This was all into stuff in my database.
Gotcha.
And I've got one callback that's I'm not sure if they're trying to rent their fourplex or what, but I got to call them back. They asked me to call them back at 3. And then I got another one that I've been working on for a year and a half, and boom, she called me back this morning off the buyer campaign, which I apparently made a mistake and got her on that one, and said, hey, I want to list my home. Do you have time on Saturday to come over? So
that's good. How much do you think it's going to be for that listing? Like one something or what? 2 million?
Well, probably net to me about 28,000 or so.
Okay, that's good. And the thing about when you start, because right, about databasing is that as the number starts getting bigger and bigger, it really becomes difficult to like try to see who's on what list, right? So that's why I tell people, if you just get in the habit of running the campaign like on a calendar, right, on the same time, then sooner or later it's going to start hitting, because it's going to start compounding. So, but any other feedback or suggestion for the folks or maybe something that you've discovered while you were doing it?
Well, I think that what I will do is I'll probably wait a few days and run against the sellers again with the investor offer as opposed to the homes are selling fast in your neighborhood offer.
Yeah. Now, why would you do that? Why would you put a couple of days? I think I know why, but why are you doing that for the folks that are wondering? Why are you going to put a couple of days?
Just so people just don't start getting pissed off that it's the same guy leaving a message. I wanted a little bit of time in between so that they don't necessarily associate that investor offer with an agent.
Correct. And just in case, right, I'm pretty sure you scrubbed your list, right, as you're going through it, but just in case if you have one person on the buyer's list to the seller's list, and if you hit them, right, it's going to be like, what the heck, right? So those are a reason why you got to put at least couple days in between. I recommend individuals at least put like a week or 2 weeks in between. If you're going to hit the same list with the same message, then I tell individual at least 30 days, right? So,
okay.
So, but any other questions I can help you out with, Stephen?
No, I think I'm going to go after the vacant homes next.
All right. Well, test it out, right? It's about testing and tweaking. And if you got questions, and by the way, when you shot me the email, great questions. Hopefully that was able to help. Just keep on shooting it over to me, okay?
Okay, will do. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Stephen. All right. So let me see here. A couple other questions I said. All right. So pending hijacking campaign, 4 of the 20 agents responded initially. Hold on here. Let me see here. Let me see. Where are you at? It's Naya, right? If I remember. Naya, are you there? Oh.
You gotta wait for it to go down now.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you because you have background. It says can't talk now. Okay, sorry about that. I heard some background on what's going on. So, all right. So let's break down what happened with the campaign. Okay. So, what you'll start understanding is that we try to make things as simple as possible in our business, right? Why is because the world is already complicated to begin with, so let's simplify things. Okay, so what happened with Kelly, right? With these Get Business Today campaigns, right? Is number one the data, all right? Always the data or the data. In her case, it was her old dead leads, and you just even heard Stephen, which is a really painful one for me to even hear, which is, like almost $200,000 worth of his take, right, his side on that. And based on, the conversation I had with him, that would have been, I believe that would have been, I'm not looking at student profile, but I believe that would have took him to his goal that he had for this year, right? And I'm talking about that's That's real money, ladies and gentlemen, okay? So again, old leads, you got to market to them, okay? And then what do? In this case, the marketing, instead of DBC, get us what? It was an email, and the approach was what? Do the get business today to get people to say yes, raise their hand up, right? And it's the philosophy and concept of the one-handed email that I talk about, right? And I talk about how I discovered this, how I learned it from, right? And then from there, you do a follow-up, right? Really simple. That's 1, 2, 3, right? In this case, the follow-up was what? You talk to the buyers. Now, typically, I recommend, if you're doing an email-centric campaign, is that you should stay on that same communication or that media that they're communicating with until you get maybe about 2 to 3 touches going back and forth, then attempt to get on the phone. All right? Versus they respond and says, yeah, and then there's a number in the system where you have it and it's in their signature, you're picking up the phone and calling. I wouldn't do that. I would at least try to do 2 or 3 back and forth and then maybe do that. And then go into a text maybe. Right? Even to a point where you can be like, hey, I was going to call you, but I'm going into the meeting. Hey, by the way, you said that you're still interested. I got a inside scoop on a deal in this city coming up. It's actually about $50,000 less than the listing price. So I think it's a great deal. Would you be offended if I were to send this out to you? Right? And guess what? If you say, hey, would you be offended? Most people are so programmed to say no. They'll be like, no, go ahead. Right? And you got them to say, you got them to another communication back and forth, right? So, again, that's what she did. And then found out where they want to buy, okay? And then guess what? Once you know what the buyer wanted, then guess what? You run another campaign to find the properties for them. So for anyone else that currently has buyers right now that's on the fence and or you do the Get Business Today campaign and they're buyers, right? Run this, right? If you're an investor yourself, this still works. Right? It's a little bit harder, but this was in my real estate investment company. This is all I did for literally like 3 years. It was an email-centric campaign that I did, and we did millions of transactions. Right? So in her case, what did she do? She hit up the pending, right? Because it's called pending hijacking. But she understanding data manipulation on the MLS, I suggested to her to say, hey, go after old rentals from the MLS. Right? Meaning the listing agent that did rentals, like single-family homes, rentals on the MLS. Okay? On the MLS. And they rented it out like 10 months ago. Now, why is that important? 10 months ago is because most leases, if it's leased out on the MLS, the lease is what? It's a yearly lease. Would you agree? And because of that, you know that the lease can be up. So if you can, get hold of the listing agent who already has a relationship with the seller because they listed it out and be like, hey, you know what? I'm contacting you to see, hey, that you leased this property, and I wanted to see. I have a buyer that's really interested in this location and this property, this type of property. Would the owner be interested in possibly selling? Right, that's it, and that's what she did. Okay, so it was a modified pending hijacking campaign, but the core of it, the fundamental, is what? MLS manipulation of the data, right? Because the email's there. Okay, so if you're not going directly to the seller, you're going to the gatekeeper of the seller, which is, in this case, agents. Okay, and did that, and then guess what? Talk to the listing agent and talk to the actual agent, pre-negotiated, right? And the line that I tell individuals to how to pre-negotiate, if someone says, yeah, write an offer, is you don't simply says, okay, great, I'll write an offer. Is no, you ask the question, what do I need to come in at to make this work? What do I need to come in at to make this work? And then they're going to tell you, and if that number is remotely under like the fair market value or near fair market value and no one has it, now you have added value that you can turn around and use that number to turn to your buyer and get them off the fence and be like, look, you got the inside scoop. It's not available anywhere online, but you can get into this, but we got to write an offer today. All right? Makes sense? Same thing if you're an investor, developer, wholesaler, you can do the exact same thing too. Obviously, you're the principal in that case. All right? So the step is easy. Step number 1 is you do the data with the old leads. You do the marketing approach of what? The Get Business Today campaign. And then you do a follow-up where you talk to the buyers, find out what they want to do. Now, obviously, this works for sellers too, okay? And then step 2, step 1 is you got a buyer. And then step 2, you do the pending hijacking campaign to what? Get the sellers. Or you got the sellers once you do that. Right now, again, I'm using the term got the sellers or get the sellers, right, through the gatekeeper. Okay? And then once with that information, guess what? Step number 3 is you just connect the two. Okay? And when she did that, she got the results. So again, this boils down to using a strategy that I like to call the blue ocean strategy. It comes from an actual book called Blue Ocean Strategy. All right? So you too can revive old dead leads and get buyers in escrow for $38,000 from one of the campaigns. Now, I don't know the dollar amount you'll be able to do based on your location, but you can absolutely do that. All right? And this is the reason why I tell an individual, yes, do the DBC, but also at the same time, if you have assets like a list that you got from lead vendors, open houses, business cards that you collected, network events, whatever it is, run the darn campaign. All right? And it's going to do one or two things. You're going to find out real quickly why you should be on a calendar to do these campaigns every single month. All right? Because you don't want to be in a position where kind of like you heard Steven say, man, 200 grand that you lost, okay? I know some other people that was like 500 grand and stuff like that because they thought it was just simply dead leads and they just had them in their CRM and they just never emailed them. When in reality, guess what happened with these sellers or buyers? They just simply forgot about the person and some other agent just snagged it right under it, all right? Or some other buyer, buyer just snagged it right under it, okay? And you just don't want that, all right? And again, going back to leap of skill, not leap of faith, right? Understanding the power of blue ocean strategy. One of the books I recommend right here, here's my Audible, right? I read tons of books, is Blue Ocean Strategy. I'm going through it for the 3rd time again. And really the concept boils down to this, the difference between a red ocean and a blue ocean. This book is about 10 years old now, okay? But it's becoming really, the term blue ocean is becoming a vernacular in the business world now. Like that's how big it's starting to become. I first learned it from my mentor and coach back in 2009 when the book was like a year out, right? And I was just like, wow, that makes sense. So what is ocean, the red ocean, right? You compete in the existing marketplace, right? You compete in the existing marketplace. You're going after the same thing everyone else is going after. You're doing the same thing that everyone else is doing, right? And the idea is what? And the goal is you want to beat your competition. You're like, I'm going to beat my competition. I'm going to outproduce them. I'm going to do more deals. And that's the attitude that you have. Okay, in the red ocean. Other things that you might be like, I'm in a red ocean is what? You're going to be like, hey, I'm going to exploit the existing demand. Okay? Will it work by exploiting existing demand? 100%, yes, it will. Okay? But it's a short-term strategy. It's not a long-term strategy. All right? Make the value cost trade-off. Okay? What did we just see Callie earlier, right? She got a deal, but then she discounted her value. Right now, I'm really happy in the fact that, hey, 38,000, but you discounted your, right? Like literally, you're looking about, like what, 2 points on that, you're instantly looking about another $15,000 that you discounted. I get it. Hey, if you need to close, you need to close, you need to eat, right? You need to get some deals in, okay? But how many times have we all done this? I've done this even with sellers when I'm negotiating, like, hey, we got all these rehabs going on and then, my overhead and, my overhead is literally like, 50, 60,000 a month without me paying my payroll, right? Payroll, okay? And my own salary through the company. And I'm just like, man, I got to close this deal and then I'm discounting. Okay? Nothing wrong with it, okay? But try to train yourself, okay? And align the whole system. Another reason you might know that if you're doing a red ocean strategy is you're aligning the whole system of a firm's activity with its strategic choice of differentiation or low cost. Right? So you're using strictly price as the what? The measuring stick to say, hey, I'm different. Right? So if you start doing that, you instantly become marginalized by becoming a commodity in your marketplace. You never ever want to do that. Because if you become a commodity, guess what? They're going to forget about you. Versus using a blue ocean strategy, what you create uncontested market spaces from the assets that you have, the tangible assets and the intangible assets as well. Right? The database that you currently have, right? Understanding other disposition strategies, right? That we talked about, okay? And what does that do when you do that? You make the competition irrelevant, right? It doesn't, who cares what your competition is doing because you're doing totally something different, right? And you create and capture new demand, which is huge, especially in the changing marketplace. And you break the value cost trade-off. So you're not commoditized. And by you doing that, you align the whole system of your firm's or your organization activity in the pursuit of differentiation and low cost. All right. Now, typically when I say this, right, people say, well, how do you get around, when someone says, hey, can you discount? Okay. And my always line, I learned this at an early age, is when someone brings up any issue about price, right, I usually respond back with this. I go, well, thank you so much. That's a question that I get asked a lot. But let me ask you this. When you make a buying or investment in anything else outside of X, typically, most clients of mine, they make that decision based on three things. The first one is price, just like, you said. The second one is quality, right? Meaning quality of results. Is that person that you're working with is going to get you the results that they say that they promised and they said that they're going to do, and do the things that they do, all right? And then the third one is customer service. So if there is an issue, if there's something that happens, will I be accessible so that way you can get your questions answered? Now, let me ask you this. Out of these three things, what do you think is the least important thing when you make a buying decision? Is it the price, the product, or the actual service? And when you say it like that, right, typically they'll be like, oh, yeah, price. Exactly. And this is the reason why people do business with me. Right? Now, again, that's a sales component part that you can develop, but it boils down to, again, your pitch and strategy on the Blue Ocean strategy, okay? So, again, highly recommend individuals to get this freaking book because it's one of the best ones. And what's going to happen and what you'll start recognizing, right? Because the marketing things that we do, guess what? It is a Blue Ocean strategy. But what I want you to learn is really as technology changes, okay, this Blue Ocean will turn into kind of a murky pink ocean. Now, why is that? It's because your competition will start catching on. It always does. It always does. But if you have a growth mindset and if you have the mindset of continuously saying, hey, I want to create uncontested market spaces, right? And I want to make the competition irrelevant versus trying to beat them all the time, then you're going to ask different questions. And when you do, it's not going to affect you as much. You can pivot and move. And a lot of this boils down to something called grit, right? The most successful entrepreneurs and business owners I find out is they have grit, right? They might not be the most intelligent. I'm not the most intelligent, but I will find a solution if I see something happening in my own business. And you have to have literally that attitude going in, right? So, so Steven says, sometimes it's just an observation. I usually just say, I don't discount and they don't ask again. See, there it is, right? So, okay. So any questions on that? Because now we're going to go into kind of more the DBC and we're going to talk about something called the spillover effect in marketing. All right. So from some campaigns, I'm going to play actually some audio tapes from the campaign, so you can hear some of the calls as well. Is that pretty cool? Let me know if you want to hear that. The calls are kind of like, some are like 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I try to pick a most interesting one so you get an idea of that. So. Want to hear? Cool. Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay. So. Spillover effect. Let's talk about what spillover is, right? So spillover effect is just like the idea of spilling over something, like you're pouring a water into a cup, and if it overflows, guess what? It spills over, right? So every campaign that you do, you get a spillover. From your initial thing, it's going to trickle in, right? You heard kind of Joe, right? He got calls throughout the week, even the weekends. Okay? And sometimes these people will not call you because they heard your message, okay, or even your email that you sent out, but they somehow will respond back when they go like, oh yeah, you know what, that person hit me up. All right? And that's what we're going to talk about here, ladies and gentlemen, okay? So let me pull this one up, okay? So the first call that we're going to do is this property is listed, and they called back a few days ago. All right? So this is an actual campaign. All right? Now this strategy I'm doing the what? The non-traditional disposition strategy. Okay, meaning if you're an investor, it'll be like, oh yeah, Jeff, this is what I do, right? If you're real estate investor / broker, this is what you should do. If you're not, then think of it in terms of how you can get into a marketplace and doing, and this is the type of call. So let me actually pause the screen here, and let me see if there's any questions. Any questions so far? Let me know in the chat box, please. And let me see here. Even a point taken off a 6% commission discount is 70% of your commission. Oh, yes. Yeah. It's all adds up, ladies and gentlemen. You know, so let me pull up the call. I should have had it up on here. I apologize, folks. Okay. So this is a campaign. Let me give you kind of context of this, okay? So this is a campaign we're hitting in a local marketplace where he is kind of an expert in, okay? It's my good friend Garrett. He used to run the podcast with me and stuff like that. So, right, he's a local rehabber, wholesaler, and stuff like that. And we're doing a campaign currently right now. And he's out in the Canyon Country area, Lancaster area, Palmdale area. Okay, so we're running this campaign particularly there. Why is because there's some new development things that are going on out there, and I believe that can be a nice little pocket that I think we can go out and make some decent amount of money on, and so we're having him do that. So we did a campaign, okay, and a call came in from a seller. All right, and this is the first call. This is directly from the seller. I'm going to try to make this work and have you guys and gals, listen on it. Please let me know if you are able to listen. If you're not, okay, let me know in the chat box. Okay, so here we go. Can you hear it? Let me know, first off. And this is from last week, okay?
Hi, this is Ravid Levy. I'm looking for Garrett, returning his call from a few days ago.
So let me pause that. Okay, did you hear that? Hey, this is such and such. I'm, returning a call from a few days ago. All right. So this was, I believe we did this on. I'm trying to remember the exact. I think we did this on a Friday or Thursday, I think, and then I think they called on a Sunday, if I remember. Okay. So it's been a few days, right? So it's again spillover, right? It's not from the direct day that they listened to it.
Yeah, this is Garrett. How are you?
How are you, Garrett? Nice to meet you on the phone.
You too. Yeah, I called you about, see if you had given any thought to possibly selling your house.
Yeah.
So the message you used, hey, I was calling to see if you have any thought about possibly selling your house, right? So I don't know if you heard that or not. That's something that I train all my guys to do, is that when you ask a question, you go up on your voice. Okay, so about tonality, pitch control, right? It's something that I have, like a lot of my acquisition people go through, something called the straight line persuasion system. It's something that we go through, and that's kind of the thing. When you ask a question, go up, right? Like that, like you're excited.
Actually, you know what? I did. We went into escrow in late July, and it just up until about a week ago, the buyer pulled out, and so we've been going through that and it's back on the market, to be honest with you. So it's kind of good timing of when you called.
Yeah, good. Yeah, definitely. And I am a buyer, so I'm not looking to list or anything like that. I'm in front of my computer right now. Hold on one second.
Now, by this time, what are some of the questions that you have as you're listening to this? Type it in the actual chat box. Please type it in the chat box. And if someone wants to be in the hot seat, even better. Like, what's your score on so far what he has done? How he's taking the call? Whoever that wants to be in the hot seat. Come on, this time and moment is for y'all. Otherwise, I'm going to go down the list and start meeting people. Okay, Hernan said, good. What is the address of the property is what runs through my mind. Yep. So, yeah, a couple other one is saying, okay, it's listed, what really happened, right? Like, oh, right? Like instantly for me, when I was coaching him, I basically said, hey, right when they said, hey, it fell out, your instant question should be, oh, what happened? Right? Oh, what happened? Versus trying to go and says, hey, trying to pull up, right? That's key. Okay? That is key. Okay? So let's go ahead and keep on going.
So it is back on the market, you're saying, right?
It is back on the market, and if it's not today, then it'll probably be like tomorrow or Saturday. We just have to go through like the cancellation of buying, that whole process. But yeah,
right? So it's listed for, I think Rima asked, is it still listed with the previous agent? Well, we'll talk about what's going on afterwards, okay? But yes, it's listed, and what is she saying? The seller's saying, yeah, it's not back on the market yet, but it will be in the next couple of days. We're going through the cancellation process. Now, doesn't this kind of sound familiar with the case study we were talking about earlier with the pending hijacking campaign, right? Right? Is because why does pending hijacking campaign work is because most listing agents wait until literally the deal blows up to change the status. Not when they first start thinking that the deal is going to, turn bad. Even though they know in their gut something's going on with this buyer, right? But they don't change the status because they're keeping their fingers crossed like, please make this close, make this happen. Right? Now, obviously, a seasoned agent and stuff like that, once they sense that something is bad, boom, they might flip the switch, okay? But most of the time, that's what happens, okay? So again, this is what she's saying. So again, even if you're taking the approach as an investor / if you're a realtor here and you have buyers in this area, it would be really easy to get a deal in because you have now the inside scoop, right? Okay, but listen to what happens with the call, okay? And keep on typing in your questions as we're going forward.
It's going to be back on the market either for buy or for rent. Hopefully for buy. Prefer to sell it.
Yeah.
Now, what does she say? It's going to be back on the market for buy and for rent. Right? So what should be the next question you would ask? What question should you ask? Come on, anyone? Right? And this is one of the reasons why I tell individuals that I don't really like scripts, right? Is because a conversation shouldn't be robotic. Yes, you can control a call, but literally you have to listen 2 times more than you actually talk. All right? So we got people saying, let's say how much, what did you have in mind as for price, okay? Right? Yes, those are really good, but I would say, why do you need to sell that fast? Right? Because she says she's going to either rent it or sell it. Right? So there's some need of capital influx that she wants, right? Why is it? Is it because she's going to, maybe next year she's going to make a lot more income, so she wants to unload some of the asset versus like, hey, if she sells next year, then she's going to go up a tax bracket and she doesn't want to get hit with the tax. So she'd rather sell now fast. Right? Is it because that she's owned the property 27 years and you're about to get hit with the depreciation recapture tax? So I'm just like, hey, let me unload this and let me do a 1031. Right? We don't know that, right? Those are things that we gotta know and we gotta pay attention to, right? So again, let's keep on going through this.
Definitely. Okay. And that's the one on 44351 Sedona Way, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
What are you guys what is it listed for?
It was listed for 280, 275, 280.
Okay.
It's a 3-bedroom. It's beautiful. It's like 10,000 square feet, 3-bedroom, 3 bath. Couple fireplaces upstairs, downstairs, nice big master bedroom upstairs, living room, big backyard of the house. The house itself is about 2,500 square feet, but it sits on about 10,000 square feet. 3-door garage.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Sounds nice. How come, obviously, I am one of you guys and stuff. That's what I do. But I got to ask, why would you guys want to sell such a house that's in, a beautiful house in good condition?
Boom. There it is. Did you see that? He asked that question, right? Why are you looking? Okay? And it's really important to right, have them talk, right, have them say, especially if you're like an investor side or even if you're trying to get the listing side, right, it's in beautiful condition. They said that they're even willing to rent it, some way, shape, or form. So there is some necessity there, right, there's some reason why, and we got to figure out, because many times, if you went on enough seller appointments, you should know this, is that the first thing a seller says on reason why they want to sell, right, typically is BS. It typically is. And especially as you go up the actual food chain, right? I'm talking about, I say food chain, but like literally price points, right? The more affluent an individual is, they're a lot better to actually disguising their real need on why they need to sell. Would you agree? So for the folks that have dealt with $1 million properties and people that have multiple properties and stuff like that, these people will what? Hide their real what? Need on what to sell until you actually have a bond and relationship and they look at you as a trusted advisor. Why? Is because they're going to feel like, hey, you know what, you're trying to get one up on them. Right? And to do that, you got to ask good questions, right? It's about asking. So again, he's asking the question, hey, what's going on? What's going on? Okay? And you can you can tell probably just on the tonality of her choices of word and what she says is that she knows kind of her stuff, right? Like she knows what built it is, what it is, how she's saying it, right? You can hear the confidence in her voice.
Yeah, you know what? I was renting it out for a long time, and I was back and forth between Lancaster, and now I'm just mainly in Los Angeles. So, just kind of, want to sell it and move on to the next kind of thing.
Okay, so what did she say? Oh, yeah, I'm going back and forth from Los Angeles, Lancaster thing. I was renting it out, but I want to move on. All right? What's wrong with that statement? For anyone, I don't know if you guys caught it or not. Think about that. What's wrong with that statement? All right? And let's see what she says first, okay?
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a little harder for me to maintain it, spending more of my time in Los Angeles. So.
Oh, I hear that. Yeah, we're not exactly. I live out here locally too. We're not exactly close to Los Angeles, especially with traffic, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So this is where I kind of coached him on. I says, look, man, I said, she's not telling you the truth. There's something deeper going on there. Right? There's something deeper. Now, why did I instantly, when I heard this call, right, and I'm coaching him, right, and I hear this, I'm just like, there's something there, okay? I don't know if you picked it up. She said it's beautiful, okay? Yet, she's talking about she's managing and has to go back and forth. Now, then the issue is what? It's not a condition of property where you have bad plumbing, bad roof or something like that and you have to fix it. Or did she just recently remodel it? Right? That's a question you have to ask, right? And you can find that out pretty easily. And or is there other reasons why? And did you notice that how assertive she was in the beginning explaining the property, but when he actually asked the question of saying, why are you selling? She kind of like, yeah, kind of, sort of, yeah. Right? So when you hear that kind of stuff, right, if you've done enough of this stuff when you talk to enough sellers, right, or done enough phone sales, right, like for me, I get little spider sensors, I call it, right, where instantly my gut is just like, something's off, right, and I'll keep on digging. Now, obviously, it's a muscle you have to develop, and you develop more you do it, you talk to sellers, more you meet, sit down with the people at the, kitchen table and stuff like that, right, you start developing it, but this is the reason why it's important to say is because, yes, remember what I say? Lead generation is no longer a problem once you understand the power of this. And the issue you're going to run into is what? A conversion and follow-up issue, right? So again, I'm giving you kind of coaching y'all on this is because this is a conversion situation, right? How well you convert? How well do you pivot, right? Is this an opportunity for an investor to actually buy it, rent it out, and tenant it out? Or does it make sense just to simply go after the listing? Let's find out.
Okay. Well, so I don't have an idea of what I could pay for it, but I do buy houses cash.
Okay.
I buy them as is, whether they're in good shape or bad shape. It doesn't matter either way. If I really pay cash, I mean, if I pay cash, I can close by as soon as next week. Well, yeah, say next week, maybe the beginning of the following week. I mean, we can make this happen ASAP for you. If I were to do that, do you know what if you would take a little bit of a lower amount?
We might take a little bit of a lower amount, yeah. I would just have to discuss it with my brother. He actually, he's been helping me oversee the property and stuff like that. So
now, did you hear that? Now, a different decision maker popped out. How many times has that happened to you when you're talking to even a seller or a buyer? Right? That you think that you're having a conversation with the decision maker, but then suddenly, later on in the conversation, you find out that there's someone else that's pulling the strings. Ooh. Right? This is all obviously part of the game for my grizzled veterans in here. You're kind of like, Jeff, yeah, of course, but I know this stuff, right? But again, hey, I'm doing this for a reason.
Can I give you his number, actually? He's available to talk. So if I give you his number, okay, wonderful. It's 310.
Oopsie, let me forward this.
3409, okay.
And his first name is Devere. It's D-V-I-R.
You pronounce it Devere?
Devere, yes. We got a series of unknown names here, but yeah. So his name is Devere Levy. He's my brother, and him and I, if we were to sell the house cash, what kind of deal we can go down with.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I appreciate the call back. I'll give him a call in a minute. I am on my way to take my daughter to her dance class for
Awesome.
for her second class. So I'm going to take her to that, and then I'll try to give him a call maybe later on today, or if not tomorrow, to chat with him and see what we can do, if we can work something out.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Garrett. I appreciate your call.
Awesome. Thanks for calling back. I appreciate that, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so you heard the call. So who wants to grade the call on how he did? Anyone? And we'll listen to the actual next call when you talk to the brother. 9 out of 10. Yep. Definitely, yeah. Little minor things that I coached them on, right? And for the folks that have been on the phone, you guys might caught this, might have caught this. If you haven't, then you might have missed this. Is at the end, right? I always tell individuals, right, that's doing any type of phone, is to become human, right? I say become human, right? People don't like to be sold, but people like to buy, right? That's a saying you hear me say a lot, okay? But you got to become human. So what did he say? He he's not BSing, okay? Which is he's taking his daughter literally to dance class, okay? He really is, right? So he's not like, like if you're inexperienced, right? You're gonna be like, I'm gonna call him right now. And no, just relax a little bit, right? Just relax, right? It's not going anywhere, right? Take care of what you need to take care of, and then go do that, right? Okay, so become human, right? Part of it, right? And he says that, right? Like, oh yeah, hey, I'm taking my daughter, and I'll probably call him afterwards, or maybe it'll be even tomorrow, right? So again, there is no desperation on his side that he's saying, right? How many times have you done this where you're just like, oh yeah, I'll call him right now. Yeah, great. Right? Okay. So again, it's about positioning, framing, and things like that. Okay. So any questions on this? We'll go to the next call on when you actually talk to the brother, and you'll start hearing some things that are going on here. Okay. Are you guys enjoying this, or do you want to do more of this kind of stuff? Let me know in the chat box as well. Because I have like tons and tons of these calls. I just got to pull them up and I can do a lot of these. Yeah. So, okay, very helpful, very great. Okay, cool. Okay, very helpful. Okay, yeah. So, and literally my job that I do, we run campaigns typically on Wednesdays, right, for my organization. I'm literally sitting here and I'm listening to calls all day long with my team. And I'm coaching them on, hey, times, on places, on how they're doing it, how they're pitched, and I can literally hear, if you do enough of it, right, you can hear when people are actually low on energy. I can even tell when they're actually slouching. You can tell if they're smiling, right, and things like that. Eddie said, I only see the question box. Where's the chat box? The question box is the chat box, Eddie. Yeah. So, all right, so let's go and get in the next one. So let's go into the next one. Oh,
Hello. Hello, Garrett. My name is Devere Levy. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I'm Ravid's brother. I think you spoke to her about her Lancaster house yesterday.
Boom. All right. Instantly. What do you notice? Right? He's talking with certainty. Right? You hear it in his voice already. Right? Very certain how he's saying it. Right? Hey, you talked to such and such yesterday. Boom, 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 right? He's not like, well, hey, I was just calling you because you talk, right? Okay? And you have to recognize this stuff, okay? So let's go.
I did, man. How are you?
Good. So I'm actually jumping into a meeting, but she just texted me because she's on a flight out of town for the weekend.
Okay.
But do you have a quick minute to chat or not?
Well, I was actually running myself into the bank right now, but I could talk to you for a minute. That's all good.
Okay. Now, I don't know if you caught this or not, okay? He basically says, hey, you know what, I saw the text that you sent me, but I figured I'd call you because I had a couple of minutes. All right? Now, is that a true statement? I don't know. Is he making that up? Is he pre-framing? Is he good in sales? Is that why he's saying that? I have no idea, right? Now, Garrett is legitimately going into the bank because from a recent closing, he's like, depositing that, right? Because he picked up it up. So he's going to the bank and actually doing that. So he's like, yeah, I'm going to the bank right now. But yeah, sure. I can talk to you, right? Okay, so it's like literally like push and pull that is going on this, right?
So, you're obviously 61, so you're up in that Lancaster area. Are you one of these guys that wants to buy, like I own a ton of property in Texas and I get emails all the time with, hey, we'll buy your house for cash, but they offer me like 30 cents on the dollar, or are you like really interested in buying the house?
Now, what did he say? Hey, I own tons of property in Texas because he's, and he says, yeah, hey, you know what? Are you really interested in buying my property, or are you looking to get it at 30 cents on the dollar? Right? Which is a legitimate thing sellers say all the time, right? If they say, hey, I got a cash offer, I work with investors, right? They always say that. Be like, hey, man, 30 cents on the dollar, right? So then the question is, how do you respond back to that, right? And this is the key. This is the going back and forth. Yeah, and Grisel said he sounds more experienced. He's not going to give it away. 100%. Both of them, to me, sounds very experienced, right? Because the certainty on how they're talking and the choices of words that they're using, right? They're using industry lingo. Okay, if they're not, like most sellers that are not like part of the, someone in their family or someone that they're not connected to, they're not going to use industry lingo, right? Like back on market listing, right? Things like that, right? Okay. So pay attention to that because, again, you have 2 ears, one mouth, so you're supposed to listen 2 times more than you're supposed to speak, okay? So on this call already, it's about a minute long that he's doing what? Garrett only said one thing, right? He's talking most of it, okay? So listen to how he handles this.
So, I mean, okay, so how can I say it? I'm kind of both, but 30 cents on the dollar, if I could find 30 cents on the dollar, man, I'd be a millionaire, right?
Yeah, no. Okay. Right.
Right? So what does he respond back? He was just like, he was being sarcastic, so he went back and fired back, being telling the truth, right? And this is kind of part of mirroring that really comes into place when you're actually on the phone. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen, right? Someone's talking with certainty, you talk with certainty, right? Someone's talking faster, you want to speed up your voice as well. Someone's talking a little slower, you want to slow it down. Right? So again, this is beyond but you want to understand this, right? So again, he was being a little bit sarcastic, so he's being, a little bit sarcastic as well and says, hey, yeah, if I can find, 30 cents on the dollar deals all day long, I'll be multimillionaire. Right? Okay? So versus saying, no, that's not the case, right? And trying to defend yourself. No, just tell it like it is, right? So again, it requires some training, right? But hey, you do it more, it becomes fun, right?
I'm exaggerating a little bit, you know what I mean.
No, I know what you're saying, man. So, the answer to the question, I do buy houses to either fix them up and resell them or keep them as a rental property.
Okay.
And I do pay cash and I do look for a little bit of a discount, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay. Sure. So do you have info on the property? Because look, I told her to keep it. I told her not to sell. I told her I'd give her cash. I'd fix it up for her. And like literally on Monday, I've got a guy going in. He's gonna put a little bit of love on it. Just paint the cabinets a little bit in the kitchen, fix the back door. I mean, and I want her to keep it and rent it out, but she wants to sell it.
All right. Now, what did you just catch on right there, ladies and gentlemen? What did you just catch right now, based on what the brother said and basically what the sister said? All right, this is some high level. I do this with my personal, clients and stuff like that, but with my team as well. All right, we got people say she's not the owner, not him. She owns it. He is a buffer. They are not aligned. The house needs work. Liz, you nailed it. Versus this what? Sister said what? The house is beautiful. Remember that? Right? So there's they're not in alignment. Huge, right? You hear it. You just absolutely heard it, right? And instantly you're just like, okay, it's beautiful. It fell out. Now, she said it's absolutely beautiful. Then yet the brother's saying, yeah, I'm going to have someone come in on Monday to start doing the work. I'm telling my sister not to sell it, but she wants to sell it. What's going on? Right? Does she need the money? Right? You can start figuring out kind of stuff, right? You can hear it. You can absolutely hear it. Right? And this happens all day long if you're just paying attention to it. Because as I said, individuals that own real estate, okay, especially real estate, tons of real estate, okay, they are not going to what? Show their cards on why they're going to sell. Right? You know this. If you're a good listing agent or a buyer's agent, you're not going to show your cards. If you know anything about negotiation, you're not going to do that. If you're doing that, shame on you. Okay? But you're not going to do that. So you have to probe, ask questions, go into this little ping pong ball back and forth. And this is part of the game, right? This is part of the hustle. This is part, I don't even want to use the term hustle. This is just part of the game. It just is. All right? Right? So her asked the question. Yeah, my question would be, why is she selling? Exactly, yeah. That's what I kept on saying to Gary. I was just like, dude, like we haven't isolated why. Okay? But now we know something's going on, so we'll explain what happened with the call and what's going on, okay, afterwards. So let's finish this.
So, she's got a realtor. He's not doing very, he's a good guy, but I don't know. It's all the way out there for her, so I don't know what's going on. But, there's a little bit of wiggle room there because if I can get rid of real estate commissions, I can do that, we could probably make something happen. And if you come in with cash, I could probably be a little bit more flexible with her. So, what do you need from us, or what details do you need? Or if you're up in that area, do you want to drive by the house, take a look, and tell me what you think? And if it makes sense, we can make the numbers work.
Exactly. I can do that. I can do a little drive-by, and then I can get back to you and let you guys know what I'm thinking. And I do have a question. She's not living there, or is she living there?
No, it was a rental property. And again, the tenant moved out. We had a little issue with the tenant, so we got rid of her. And then she's like, well, why don't I just sell it? And I'm like, you may be hurting cash flow now, but in 20 years when it's paid off, you'll be happy because, I believe in once you own a piece of property in California, you never sell it. And and she's lucky she's got a big brother like me who can find, I could buy that house 10 times cash, right? So it doesn't really matter. Right. So if she's short 1,000 or 2,000 or 15,000, I can give her and just let her just learn about it. But she doesn't know much about it, and my dad kind of helped her buy it. And she wants to sell it. So she wants to sell it. She wants to sell it. Okay, great. I mean, I told her I'd buy it from her, and she's like, it's sticky. So let her sell. So take a look at it if you want something. It needs a little bit of landscaping in the front, which will give the curb appeal a ton more. And that's literally what I was going to do. I was going to have the guy just kind of fix the lawn, just make it green up front. And
all right, so I'm going to pause it there, okay? Now, what did you take away from that? What did you absolutely take away? Eddie says, go through the training, Eddie. Yeah, this is, remember, these weekly ones are supplemental training outside of the core training. So, yes, Steven nailed it. She needs the money. Negative cash flow, something's going on. Okay? I would have asked, I don't think Garrett asked this because I remember talking to him about it, is say, how long was it vacant for? How much were they paying? Oh, what did the renter do? Must have left a bad taste in their mouth. They might have done something. Yeah. And something, the issue of, right, like, again, I think Steven knows that she doesn't want the money from her brother, right? So there's something going on, like, yeah, right? And it's a lot easier now probably to and we'll talk about what happens afterwards, but wanted to share that because you can pick up a lot of stuff, hopefully. And let me know what else y'all picked up on this call. Yep. It says they had problem with the renter, says the brother, probably wasn't paid for a while. Yep, 100%. The question is how much, right? How much was she paying out of her pocket? She lit up when he said he could pay. Yeah, yep. So, and then also, if you picked up the other one, he says, hey, he says it's listed, but guess what? He said, hey, if I can get rid of the agent, pretty much, right? I can get rid of the commission. All right. Okay, and so again, that's what's going on. And he was basically kind of talking about how the listing agent is out of the area and doesn't know the place, right? Like you can kind of like sense that he doesn't like the listing agent, right? Like whoever's listing it, right? Okay, so let's go. Keep on going.
Maybe a couple bushes. There's a back door, I guess, that needs to be fixed, and a little bit of love in the kitchen. I was all in maybe $3-4 grand. We got a little handyman that does it. And I think the curb appeal and everything would be much greater. But if she wants to get rid of it, Garrett, you go for it. Tell me what you think you could pay, and I could make it happen.
Okay, well, let's do that then. I'll check it out today. I'll run some numbers. Yeah. We can talk again in a little bit this afternoon, and we'll see what we can do.
Perfect. And to let you know, at the end of the day, I'm the decision maker on that property. So
no problem, man. She told me that too. She told me that and gave me a number, so I totally understand. I'll give you a call back and we can chat.
Sounds good.
All right. Now, a couple things, all right? And I applauded him on doing this, all right? I don't know if you caught this or not, all right? This is part of like an NLP training, right? Like creating a frame, giving the frame away is part of it, right? So the frame that he's creating is that he is in a power position, okay? You can tell with the certainty in his voice how the choices of words that he's using, all right? And yeah, there we go. It's, brother wants ease, but he's postured to be a protector. Correct, yeah. So he's saying that. He says, I am the decision maker. If the numbers work, I can make it happen, right? Like pounding his chest literally, right? All right? And then what did Garrett do? He says, yeah, that's exactly what, she said, right? So literally give him the frame back. Okay? And you might think that, like, what does that got to do with anything, right? In these phone sales and doing this, but it makes a world of a difference, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I cannot stress this enough. These little things that you do on these calls with these sellers, right? Like even like when you meet the sellers, right? Like, hey, right? If you walk into to meet the seller, right? And the seller's all like, hey, you know what? Let's sit down at the kitchen table. You say, hey, you know what? This is really important, the things that we're going to talk about. So let's just sit down over here, and you actually point at the actual living room. Right? If the seller, you walk in and then the seller actually says, hey, you know what, let's sit down in the living room. He says, oh no, this is really important stuff that we're going to talk about, so let's sit down here, and you point at the kitchen table. Right? So what are you doing? You're setting the frame up to actually making sure that, hey, you're in control, you know what you're doing, right? And things like that, right? Even if you're knocking on the door, right? A couple things that you want to do if you're knocking on the door, right? You never want, especially you're a guy, if you're knocking on the door for the first time, you never want to be close to the door, right? Because if someone's looking through the peephole, they can't see your arm, so they might be really defensive. So you have to take about 6 to 7, 8 feet back, and then have your hands at the palm down so they can see your palm. So you're in a non-threatening position. Okay, and things like that, right? So these are all so important stuff that people are not aware of and they don't do in their business. But I'm sharing this with y'all because I think as you talk to more sellers and as you meet them and stuff like that, you're going to find your own style. But it's important to understand that the devil's in the details, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so he gave the frame away to the protector brother. I'm going to use the name, and you heard that.
All right, enjoy and have fun with that deposit at the bank.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
I'll talk to you.
I'll talk to you later. We can chat.
Sounds good. All right, enjoy and have fun with that deposit at the bank.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
I'll talk to you.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Now, another instantly what you should pick up is the fact that the first thing that Garrett said, he's at the bank, and then right at the close of it, the end of it, he brings that up. So tell me if this guy's sharp or what. Okay, he has some sales background. You can clearly tell. Right? He's paying attention to everything, the details, and he brings that and says, hey, ha, 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 have fun at the bank making that deposit good, when the call ends. All right? So what do you think so far? Grade this call. What would you grade this call? Like if you did it yourself, you heard yourself actually doing it, or maybe someone on your team doing it, what would you grade this call? Yep. Call was solid. Yeah. Okay. Now, probably the big question that you're wondering is like, okay, what happened afterwards, right? Right? What happened afterwards? Okay. Then Sherry brought up a good point, and it says, why isn't he buying it? Yeah, correct. Like, yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? Why isn't he buying if he has more money than 10 times over, right? Like they were saying. Okay. But those are questions that we're going to find out this week because he's meeting actually the sister at the property. I believe tomorrow. Yeah. And that's what we're going to do, a little bit more discovery conversation. All right. Now, either way, if we cannot buy it, I know for the fact because of the relationship already that's built that we can actually have them list with one of our team agents. Okay. Hopefully we can buy it. That'll be the best thing, actually. That'll be the best thing. Yeah. Because the price is in there. There's a rehab going on with our friendly competitor in there that if those two closes is going to hit record numbers in that, and that's going to set a precedent on it. So we know it's impending right now. So, and we know that it appraised. So, yeah. So, if we can close it and that becomes a new comp, it's like we have inside information on that, right? Because we know the area very well, or he does, not me personally, but Garrett does, right? So those things really help, right? Like the comp, if you just look at it from the surface, is going to be like maybe 300, but there's literally two right now pending right now above asking price at 340, and then they both appraise. All right. So things like that, right? So we have the inside information. All right. So any questions so far on that? I want to go into the kind of the next part of this call. And let me know if you like that or not. Again, let me know. in the chat box? Great stuff. Okay, cool. All right. So let's go ahead and go to the next part, right? Let me show this. So here's the kind of the summary of the call tracking, right? That we're doing, okay? So this is the campaign. It was on the 7th, right? So it's kind of old, right? But I'm being transparent, right? It's just literally on here, right? And the first one you want to see is we did it on the first day, right? Got about 80 inbound calls. The second day, got about a little over 100. The next day, we did over 40 and then kind of trickled off, and then there's some right here that kind of happened, right? So if we look at this, calls by time of day, right? So we tested this out in a different time, all right? This is usually I don't do this. Usually I start at literally the power hour time if we do any type of call like after 4. So we do it typically like from here to the last one being like 7 o'clock. This is the time that we do our drops here, okay? But you can see here we started at 11, all right? And I believe the last one we did was a 3-hour block of 3. So this is the time that we did it. All right, so we're testing. Okay, we're testing. Okay, we're testing. And you can see here on the next one that time of day, that we're doing this. Okay, so Thursday, Friday, and then we did one on Saturday. Right? The Saturday one, I believe we did in the morning. Yeah. We started at 11. I think the Saturday one was 11. I think we started at 1. I'm sorry. We started at 1 on Thursday, and then Friday, I believe. Yeah. So sorry about that. And then on Saturday we did the morning. Yeah. So if you're doing anything in the morning on the weekends, do it in the morning. Okay. All right. So any questions on this? I want to go to the next screen, which is hopefully is going to be even more helpful for y'all. All right. Now, if you have a big brokerage and stuff like that, right? Just route the call directly to people in your office. You can do that, or let it go to voicemail. Have your team follow up on, right? Or an acquisition team. You can do that too. Okay. So here is kind of the quote unquote our most sophisticated tracker. Now we have different types of tracker that we use, right? But we're testing out a new campaign, so I don't complicate it, right? I keep it really simple. Okay, really, really simple. What are we using? A spreadsheet on Google Docs. You'd be like, wow, Jeff, man, like I thought you do some really sophisticated stuff. Yes, we do some sophisticated stuff on Podio, okay? But we don't do every single campaign that way because it's about speed and velocity, right? Because we're testing out this new campaign, new things, right? So you can see, like, he's really disciplined. Obviously, I'm blocking out the stuff that's on here, right, for obvious reasons, right? 259 fell out of escrow, listed, want to market. 450K minimum sales price, lives in Texas, 340 a month. 1,000 and mellow roofs. That number should be blocked out. I don't know why. Hold on, let me block this out. Yeah. Choose a color pen. No, man, you can still see it. Yeah, so agent's number, appointment, 9 a.m., followed up on 9:14, planting seeds, call back after he gets off work, call next week to schedule appointment, did a loan mod, not in foreclosure, not for sale, doesn't want to sell, fixing it, may rent it out, not interested right now, getting ready to sell, 259, listed with the agent, relocate, 259 is the best price even with cash, LOL, got listed full market value with another agent, has a rental he may be interested in selling. Oh my gosh, he gave the address. Have a Spanish speaker. Caller says they don't own a house. House is listed with an agent, 210. Interested, wants to know value, what it's worth. Investor wants to be added to a cash buyers list. Make offer. Marlon, not the owner, missed his call. May be interested in selling. Job opportunity in Newtown, as much as he can, as what he wants. Oh my gosh. May be interested, wants to make an offer, says it's in great shape, wants top dollar, thinks it's the best house on the block. Okay. And a couple missed calls that he put on here that you can see right here, right? So again, really simple stuff. We don't try to complicate it, especially on our first campaign, right? We try to keep it easy as possible. Okay? So any questions on this? Love seeing it visually. Yep, yeah. I try to do it. I'm a visual learner, so I like to see stuff visually, okay? So let's go into the next one, right? This is another case study of spillover effect in marketing, okay? So this one is literally I got today as well, okay? You might be like, wow, Jeff, you get, yeah, it's kind of like, if you're in the business, right? Like your phone never stops, right? It just keeps on coming in. So it's like that, right? I actively manage and actively do stuff. So this is a good friend, Kevin, right? So he sent this in, right? So she called, said he needs to sell fast, and I said I like the sound of that. And then he sent me the text of Zillow profile, right? So this is they sold on January 12th, 2016 for 1.355, and they want to sell fast. I like that, right? I like that, right? I really like that. Okay, so we're probably going to get this at, obviously more than 1.3, I'm guessing. And or there may be some other issues that's running into this and why they're actually possibly selling too, which we're discovering right now. If you're in the Los Angeles area, there is a moratorium on developers for 24 months. So, a lot of the properties that people bought on big lots and stuff like that, guess what? They had intentions to buy it, to do additions, and or to knock the whole thing down, to build little McMansions on it. But because of a moratorium, right, they're no longer able to do these McMansions, so they're freaking out. A lot of these developers and investors that went into it because they couldn't grandfather in the actual plans because, sorry, you can't build, right? So they're unloading. Right? That's another angle that we go after too, right? So again, it's having what? Our level is what? Strategy, right? Makes the competition irrelevant. Okay? Make the competition irrelevant. I don't care, right? And you got to know these things, right, in your marketplace, especially if you're in a very competitive marketplace, right? Not to say that you cannot make good money, okay? And that's not what I'm saying, okay? But the more you educate yourself, the more you understand why the market's doing what they're doing, then you can craft your marketing campaign to marry that, and then you'll be able to find your blue ocean, all right? Jane said, I'm not in Los Angeles, but can you talk about moratorium? Yeah, so the city, the building and safety puts overlays for builders, right? So again, across the nation, because money is still cheap, right? It's dirt cheap because the Federal Reserve and Janet Yellen keeps on printing money, right? So it's still cheap, right? So developers are still building. And if you know any history about of how much we're underdeveloped, right, across the nation, is the developer hasn't been developing in the last 10, so people are still developing. So certain cities, to slow down the growth of development, they will put overlays on it. So Los Angeles, like particularly in a pocket called like Hancock Park and stuff like that, right, like LA, right, a lot of the people who own the property for a long time, like 30 years, 20 years and stuff like that, right, they live there, they got upset. Right, and your city might actually have that. I don't know what city you're in. I think I know what city. I think you're in what? I think you're in Michigan, right? So, but anyways, so they got upset. Why? Is because they look out the window and they see a little gigantic, McMansion. Well, I'm talking about Cape Cod stuff or the more modern type of looking stuff, right? The boxy looking houses, okay? And they got upset. They said, "Hey, man, that sucks. I look out the window. There's a big old wall." Right? And aesthetically, it's changing the neighborhood of Los Angeles, and that's what they did. And they tried to pass something called Measure S, right? This was months ago, and I was following that for a very long time, and I was paying attention to that. And a lot of investors and developers got killed because they couldn't get their plans approved. Now, Measure S did not pass, but the different overlay passed. And it basically means that square foot on a 50 by 150 lot, typically if it was like a 6,500 square feet, you can do like density bonus and then build like little 4,000 square feet houses. I'm not little, but ginormous houses, like a 4,000 square feet building on a 6,500 square feet lot. Right? It was like obnoxious, right? Like I've done many of those, and it's good. Okay, but because that passed, you're no longer able to do that, and that throws off the numbers for developers, right? So a lot of people are now like stuck at a rock and a hard place, especially if they have cost of money on there, like hard money. Then it's eating into their profits, so they're trying to unload and then get the maximum amount of money as possible. Okay, because they had intentions of doing a development or knocking it down and doing a new house, but the numbers just doesn't pencil out anymore, right? And or the other people that don't have hard money, they're just like, screw it, let me just rent this out until the moratorium passes, and I'll develop then. Right, that's some of the ideas that people are having too. Okay, so again, hopefully, did that help? Let me know, because sometimes I'm giving like specific stuff in my own business, and I don't know if these stories I'm telling you has value for y'all. But the point is is to know your marketplace better than your competition, right? And the first place that you start off is the data side. So all right. All right, so let's go ahead, and I got to speed this up because I have a couple more that I need to talk about, and this will be really good. So case study of how we got a motivated seller and how we repurposed the data to increase income from 9,700 to 16,490. So remember how I said create uncontested market spaces, make competition irrelevant, and create and capture new demand and break the value cost trade-off, right? So this is pretty much a case study that we do. Okay, so again, overview of direct bypass DBC campaign is what, right? You do this, data, marketing, follow-up, and then you either take the call, let it go to voicemail or call center or a dedicated agent, right? That's kind of the three-step process. Okay, now in this case, we did what? Tracking option number 1, which was, hey, taking the call. Okay, so we did this, and we got the message, answer the phone, you talk to them, right? And that's what we did. And then for the data that we hit, okay, here, right, guess what we did? We appended all the data from a recent sold, all right, meaning that the team agent sold a property in a community, and we appended all of the 302 condos in that community. Right, so it was in Anaheim, right, 302 condos in that area. So we appended that, right? So we pulled it, got it from title, we appended that. Why? Because we just recently sold it. Not only did we sell it, but it was at a record price, right? So we did that. And then here's the message that we use. Hey, this is Joe. I wanted to reach out to everyone in Suburbia. That was a community to see if you could help me out. I just sold a home in your community. It sold in 12 days for a record price. There are still more buyers looking to move in the community, but there's not enough homes for sales. If you had any thoughts on selling, please call me at boom the number. Right now is the best perfect time to sell. Again, feel free to call or text me at. Thanks again. I look forward to working with you. All right, we did that. Okay, and boom, we get texts and stuff like this, right? So this one is a text that we got to our call fire number that we have, and this says, hey, I'm a resident of Suburbia. It says, got your voicemail yesterday. I'm currently up in Yosemite, but was thinking about selling soon. Only problem is my unit needs some restoration in the kitchen and bathroom. There was a water leak, and the association won't help out, even though it was in the common wall between the units. So my question to you is, can it be sold as is, or do you have repairs and get paid after the sales? I should be home tomorrow if you want to give me a call or come over to see what needs to be done. Okay, now a couple of things, all right? Now this is a case study I use a lot to give a point on this blue ocean strategy, as well as understanding language pattern, right? Because like this person, as you can see, they're using like language that a sophisticated, intelligent person uses, right? Like, hey, my question is, can it be sold as is, or do you have someone that can do the repairs and get paid after the sales? Like, really? Normal sellers don't talk that way. Okay, so they talk to someone else. Now, we found out later on that he's a NASA scientist, actually. Yeah, so I'm sorry, he's in aerospace. I'm sorry, not NASA. Yeah, so he's in aerospace, and he's a scientist, actually. Yeah, the dude is really smart. Yeah, he actually really smart. Kind of awkward, but he's really smart, okay? And he sends that in, okay? And here's the property, and what we did with this particular property, okay, is that if he sold as is, he would have literally got like $1,000 or something like that, okay? Right? And it would have been a challenging sale to do that. So we ended up fronting the money for the construction cost. All right, this is becoming very popular. If it's not in your marketplace, look around. People are doing it. Okay, so we fronted the construction cost on this money. Okay, so we went in, team fixed it up, we fronted the money. Okay, and why do we do that? So that way we can relist it and get top dollars, right? And the property's going to sell more. And not only that, but it's a win-win-win situation because the seller makes more money, right? You get to sell a property that's, nicer, so it's a lot easier to sell. And not only that, but if it's nicer, guess what? You can get more buyers out of it, right? Versus an ugly, dinky little thing because they had pit bulls and stuff like that. And like you walked in, it smelled like dog boo-boo, caca, whatever you want to call it. Like literally, like they have pit bulls in there, man. It was ridiculous. And it was, and I walked in there. I'm just like, oh my gosh, and I was just like, oh man. And then the issue was that he has an underlying loan, and it's, like if we bought it, like we can't really flip it. We could have bought it and probably like held it on for rental portfolio, but it was like, yeah, let's just, make our money and run with it, So that's what we did. So, see here, we put in this little, the mulch stuff, right? Cleaned it out. Here's our rehab that was done on this, right? Floor, laminate flooring, painted really, basic carpet, right? Stuff, we did, right? New kitchen cabinets and stuff like that, right? We didn't make any type of, structural things, right? If this was in a different location, we would have probably made a hole right here. because I like to do this on some of the properties, right? Especially condos, right? Like I like to sometimes make a hole right here, right? And then move these cabinets more over here, right? I would do that, and then put a little bar right here, right? So people can actually like see. But typically when you do that, you want to move this to this side, right? You want to do that. But if you do that, then you're changing plumbing and stuff like that, and this is on a slab foundation. We're not trying to put in more money, especially when we're fronting it, right? So we didn't do that. But if you're a rehab, you know what I'm talking about. That's the kind of stuff that you would do. So at least you can change the structure of it so you can sell more, right? So this is it right here. Let me clean this up, right? So here's the finishes, right? The engineered quartz, right? That's really cheap stuff. But it looks nice, right? Okay. We do that. Boom. Right. Put this in, put that in. Cess lights, right? We did that as well. Right. You can see here. Boom, 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 boom. Right. Again, I was wondering what the hell was he thinking when they put this, I don't know why they put the peace sign on here. Yeah. But you can see here, right? Just a flat mirror, right? We're not putting in a whole heck of a lot of money, right? In this, right? I think we spent, how much did we spend on this, man? I think I have the number on this. Yeah, but here it is, right? So 388 on this. So we did 2.5, so it was $9,700, right? On this. So once it was done, guess what we did? We did the exact same thing once the rehab was like done, and we sent it out in the community as well. We repurposed the data, right? After it was done to get buyers. So he says, hey, I guess I got your voicemail. Anyways, can you help me out? I just listed my second home in your community in suburbia. I'm holding a special open house, and I'll have some taco, beers, and wine for adults and juice and cookies for the kids. It's coming up this Sunday, so swing by and said the address. Oh, almost forgot. If you can't make it or have any questions, please call or text me at Beaumont. See you on Sunday. Right? We repurposed the data. And then guess what? Boom, got a buyer. Right now, clearly we did discount the commission, right, to 4.25, right, because we're representing both sides and stuff like that, right, and it became $16,490, right? And then guess what we did afterwards, right? We repurposed the data again, right? I want to reach out to everyone in suburbia, see if you can help me out. I just sold my second home in your community. Both sold in less than 12 months at a record price. There are still more buyers looking to move in the community, but there's not enough homes for sale. If you have any thoughts on sell, please call or text me right now. And the perfect time to sell. Again, feel free to call or text me. Okay? You see how we're repurposing it, okay? Now, please understand this, okay? We're not doing this like every week, right? There's some time in between that we're doing this, okay? But we repurpose data, right? Just like the Get Business Today campaigns, right? The old leads, right? We're repurposing data, and you want to get good at that, okay? If you understand that, boom, no one can touch you in your marketplace. All right, so that's what I got for y'all. Let's open up the Q&A here. So what questions do y'all have? Let's do some Q&A here. I went a little bit longer than expected today, so I apologize for that, but let's do some Q&A here. So what questions do you have? Type it in the actual chat box. Let me know as well. If you have any questions or even feedback, let me know if you like this style a little bit more, or do you like more of the interview style, or do you like more content, sometimes like this, case studies or topical stuff? Let me know in the chat box. Again, this is a feedback loop that I have and I put together so that way I can continuously deliver value and making sure that we do this. Also, let me know if you want more of the phone call case studies where I'm playing it and I give my commentary on how to get better on the phone. Let me know that as well. If I get enough people actually saying that, I'll actually do more training on that and put it in the actual training curriculum. Yeah. Case studies, great. Love the phone call training. Okay, cool. So if you like it, yeah. So I will. I have tons of those. Like you have no idea how many recordings I have. So I can definitely do a lot of that. And as the market changes, we change our pitch too. Right, and as the avatar we're talking to, we change as well. Do you repurpose the data in the Spanish? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yeah. So, yeah, we have Spanish campaigns that we do too. Yeah. So, but then be very careful as well for the Spanish one, right? Like you have to go into an area that's really, really Spanish driven and hit it. And then because before the first time we did this, right, on the Spanish campaign, it didn't dawn on me, right? But we just like hit the list, right? Like ready, fire, aim, velocity, right? So we hit the list, and then literally like people got pissed off that we left the message in there in Spanish, right? Like, and it's unfortunate because, you know, we live in such a great country, right? But they got so upset, and like some of the ugly side that came out where I was just like, man, I can't believe this, you know? Supposedly I'm in a very liberal state of California, right? But there literally says, people like literally, like we have messages like, people like you are the reason why our country's in this way, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, good Lord, you know, like the ugly side of humanity is showing up, you know? And I didn't like that, you know, because I'm a minority too, you know, and I grew up in a Hispanic neighborhood, you know, but it was crazy, you know, yeah. You know, but so again, know your audience, know where you're dropping the messages in, you know. We did have someone who tried to do like a Vietnamese one, like last year, in a different state, and kind of ran into the same issue too, which was it's not predominantly heavy Vietnamese or whatever it is, and they didn't remove the Caucasian names, right, or the American names in there, and they got a lot of people getting pissed off about that, yeah. So, like literally, like people cussing them out, like via text, you know. It is just crazy how the world is, you know. But you can test it out. What were the best days and time to call based on your stats? Fridays. I do Wednesdays. So I don't do Mondays. Well, we did Mondays, but again, time is always power hour, right? 4 to 7. That's always good. But really, I tell individuals just do it. You know, like you heard Joe like earlier today, right? Like he did it at 3 p.m. Actually, matter of fact, is he still on today? Let me see if he got some more calls. I don't know if he left. Yeah, it looks like he left. Probably got busy doing the calls. Yeah. So why not send a small amount every 6 days a week? Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah, you can 100%. You can do that too. Yeah, you can pre-schedule, do it a little. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. So, but if it's like an email-centric one, I just say hit the whole list, right? Yeah, because if you have a dedicated person for acquisition, you can do that, drip it, right? Like you can do that because they're going to be busy all day. But if you're actually doing it yourself, if you're a solopreneur or for that, I tell people just pick a time and just hit the darn list, and you can do that, you know. And here's the reason why, right, is because you become really reactive in your business if the call starts dripping in throughout the day, like if you're running other parts of your business, right? But if you have an acquisition person, yeah, you can drip it out. Not a big deal. So what it is, how many people are handling? I have 3. Yeah, so I have 3, and we just do campaign once a week. That's it. So, and then we have a couple of other, like offhand agents and stuff like that will follow up and do more of the follow-up stuff, right? So we have that. So, and personally, I get on the phones too, sometimes too, depending on what it is. Especially if it's in an affluent neighborhood, I get on the phone sometimes. I take the call. Yeah. So, because it's like it's crazy. Where especially like right now, we're going after like 30+ units and stuff like that, right? These people are like, you have to talk to them differently. Right? Like they're coming from a power position. They just think that you're like a salesperson or something like that, right? So I hop on and I have to like kind of like, yeah, like have a conversation with them, so, and we have fun, so, and especially if it's like big deals. Currently right now we're working on some specialty lists locally here that has big spreads on them. Yeah, so if that's the case, I can put my best guy on there, but really in the beginning sometimes I like to hop on with him to see, hey, what's happening, so highest amount of leads you've sent per day. I think we did, the first time we did, I think we did 25,000 on one shot. And then it was my buddy, me and Joe that we were taking the call. And we were literally at his house. I think I drove out to his house. We were there and this was a couple of years ago, but, yeah, we did that. And I was just like, yeah, let's just try it, And then we did it. And then our phone literally kept ringing for like, I want to say 6 hours, 7 hours straight. Yeah, we did it like, I think like at 10 a.m. in the morning, and then it would not stop. And I was so tired talking on the phone. Like we literally sat there with a notepad, and then we just like boom, boom, boom. We were like talking to everyone. Yeah, like, yeah. And it was amazing, but also at the same time, we saw the power in it, and that's where my mind started working on making the changes and stuff like that, So again, I recommend individuals to, like if you're a type of person where, someone says, hey, don't touch that hot pan. And then you're like, well, let me touch it to see how hot it is. And you touch it, right? And then you learn, right? If you have that personality type, with all means, like hit the down list like big, right? Like I tell people, because you're not going to see the power of that, you know. So, how much do you send out? I send out 200 every 15 minutes. Yeah. So so now I do 200 every 15 minutes, and in an hour you're doing, you know, you can do the math. You can do the math on that, right? So, yeah, you can do something like that. So do you take the supermarket? They sent me email offering sell 40 cents per lead. Yeah, that's about it, depending on what specialty list you're going after. But again, it's like you can go after the specialty list, but in the beginning, I tell individuals, you rather spend your money on the pending first. Like you can pull your own and pull up your own specialty lists. Yeah, like you can create your own specialty list. Yeah, so. And it's really finding out in your local marketplace what pockets and what areas are really working well, you know. Matter of fact, I got a client right now that's doing the actual just strictly buyers. I think they got 15 in escrow now on buyers. They hit literally a tower that had like 300 units or something like that, a luxury tower, and they dropped a message. It says, hey, you know, drop the message. I'm trying to get the copy of the message. He's kind of hesitant to share it with me, but he's he hit the list and he got tons and tons of buyers in there, you know, now. So again, you can use it for anything. Yeah, someone says try private data. Yeah, private data, they jacked up their price, so that's why we give a different recommendation in the training now. Yeah, so it's the BM marketing that you can go through. So they do that really well. And this is the thing, I think we did this on a different training where I talked about this, right? The tier 2 companies, when it comes to data pending, right, they change. They really do. Because it's such a new thing, you know. So I'm continuously finding new people that I'm testing out, you know, buying. We did one, matter of fact, yeah, like it got reference from a title company, right? Oh my gosh, they you know, they were just like, they're the best people, and we tried them out this 2 weeks ago. Wow, the phone numbers were all wrong, and my guy got beat up, and literally verbatim, he said, dude, this is the roughest one I ever did, you know, like he was, you know, because the phone numbers were wrong, you know. And and it was just like, yeah, and it was just rough, you know. So again, it's always the source of the numbers, right? So where are you getting it from? Yeah, and especially like another one is to really think about is that, you know, blue ocean, remember, right? Don't be a red ocean, because if you do red ocean, like remember what I said is like red ocean, right? You're competing with everyone else and you're trying to beat them. So a lot of times people will be like, when it comes to using this, right, they'll be like, hey, you know what, let me just go after expired, canceled, and FESBOs, right? Will it work? Yes, it will work, but you got to know your local marketplace, right? Like if you do that in a very competitive marketplace, right, and then you append that and then you try to hit the list, man, every other person is doing that, and not only that, but they're door knocking too. You're really going to get some pissed off people, right, versus going after a pocket that no one else is doing. Right, an area that's being gentrified, an area that's, you know, that have high turnaround and stuff like that, right? So, yeah, you got to see movement in the marketplace. I cannot stress that enough. I remember like last year, right? I was huge on this, and I was looking at, because I run something called regression analysis in my local marketplace, right? And then so we ran this in a pocket called Huntington Beach, right? So I started seeing a trend, right? And I was just like, no, this place is gonna get hot. Right? And then so we went in there and we just literally cleaned house. All right? So again, these are things that you got to be aware of. And again, if you want to learn about regression analysis, I can talk about it in a different training. But yeah, so it's just literally, you know, knowing your marketplace better than your competition. So for a team of 2 people taking calls, how many leads do you recommend I hit per day? You can start off with start off with 1,000. You can do that, 1,000 per day. You know, start off with that and start cranking it up. You know, so you can definitely do that. Yeah. So you can definitely do that. Yeah, you can always crank up. You know, or if you like my style, just drop 5,000 at one shot and then have them do all the follow-ups. Right? You can do that too. So, because I don't know, when you say that you have 2 people talking, taking calls, how many, you know, are they literally like sitting in there and that's the only thing that they do, or are they doing other stuff, like they're out in the field, they're working on their own contracts, right, and that kind of stuff, right, and that's going to vary, you know. So I don't know too many people that actually can, you know, they just sit there and they just physically do that, you know, 5 days a week or 6 days a week for 8 hours just taking calls. Yeah, I don't recommend anyone to do that. You know, I have friends that run like big call centers and they don't even do that, you know. they try to get people in, more people in during power hour, because they're going to make more contacts, So, and then most people on the phone, they can only, if they're good, they can only last about 3-4 hours on the phone talking continuously. If they're great, they might be able to sustain it for 6-7 hours, right? But most individuals, yeah, like 2 hours, 3 hours is the top that they can handle, like literally without their pitch changing. Because otherwise, they become what I like to call order takers on the phone. Like they just become order takers. They'll be like, "Hey, are you interested in selling?" "No." "Okay, great, thanks." And they just hang up. And it's just like, dude, like, come on, man. Like, I want to shake these people by the lapel. What is power hour? Power hour is a slang that's used in the call center on when is the best time to actually do outbound calls. So instead of outbound calls, we're doing inbound. So we run the campaign between 4 and 7, kind of, or 4 and 8, right? Things like that. So after 4 o'clock. Yeah, and the idea is that you're catching these people as they're like in their car driving in traffic, right? So then they're more prone to actually talk to you. And then some of these people that are going to call back, they're just going to see a voicemail, and they don't even listen to the voicemail, and they're calling back too, so you can actually talk to these people too, So Saturday, the power hour is obviously different. It's more in the AM, right? You can, from 9 a.m. to 11 is usually typically the best time. Yeah. So things like that, So if you're doing an option where you're doing option 2 where you're dropping the voice messages and doing the follow-up, then, you want to do it through more of like right after lunch or in the daytime, right? Because they're going to listen to it, they're going to listen to the message at break or something like that, and they'll call back later on. So, great questions. What other questions you got? Let me see, Grizel, are you still there? Grizel, are you there? Grizel? You got a mic, or you called in? Because I know you said you have like 2 or 3 that you're working on, so I was hopefully we would be able to talk. Maybe we can talk later on. So, yes, but in the office can't talk. Okay, cool. I'll just meet you here. All right, I got a call from Netherlands. That's interesting. All right, so I don't see any other questions. So go out there, just keep on taking action, right? And again, it's not a leap of faith, it's a leap of skills. You got to develop that muscle, okay? And the more you start learning this stuff is going to help you grow your business, okay? So again, just keep working at it, chipping away. How do you actually eat an elephant? One bite at a time, as I like to call it, right? And if you have any questions, you know how to get hold of me and leverage me much as you can. All right, so that's what I got for y'all. The recording will be up in the training probably within hopefully 48 hours. And let's rock and roll, ladies and gentlemen. So take care and bye-bye.